The former Investigative Directorate against Corruption head, Advocate Andrea Johnson, has now concluded 6 days of grueling testimony before the Madlanga Commission. Johnson was questioned about whether the unit acted lawfully in charging, among others, the National Police Commissioner General Fannie Masemola under the Public Finance Management Act. And she was also probed about her relationship with the suspended Deputy Crime Intelligence head, Major-General Feroz Khan. So to weigh in on Advocate Andrea Johnson's testimony, we joined right now by independent policing and crime analyst, Dr Mxolisi Mathebula. Dr Mathebula, good to have you with us once more. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Zakina. Good morning to the viewers. Thanks for having me.
Let me start by just gauging from you your overall assessment of 6 days of testimony by Andrea Johnson.
What I could gather from her testimony is that she was a head of an institution that has normalized the culture of wrongdoing. We've seen on a new number of occasions where they were found wanting in as far as their interpretation of the law. One would assume that since they are lawyers, they are advocates, they are legal fundists, they should comprehend the law better than a layman, but they were found wanting in a number of occasions. Again, it's an institution that has normalized what I call free for all, where they will do as they wish with so much impunity. But now it makes sense that there was no one who was doing what you call oversight over IDAC. Hence, they had that leeway of doing as they wished so far. But a number of issues were also revealed during a testimony, and they were shocking revelations indeed. We didn't expect that an institution like IDAC, that is entrusted to fight corruption in South Africa, is the one that is found to be on the wrong side of the law.
And you did previously note, Dr. Mathebula, during our conversations that this testimony by Advocate Andrea Johnson could severely undermine public trust in IDAC. But given what we've heard over these 6 days, what, in your assessment, would you say was perhaps the most damning admissions that were made by Andrea Johnson?
The manner in which they applied the law let's look at the issue of the arrest of General Khumalo, General Matondo, Brigadier Mukwele. How did they get to that decision to say, now we can arrest? And now you can see that IDAC had so much powers that they can do, for instance, under Johnson would write a prosecution affidavit or memo. Then it goes, so they had those powers even to draft their own charge sheet. So it shows exactly that they were supposed to have at least people who do those things for them, but them doing everything, that was shocking for me. But again, the charges, fraud, corruption, irregular appointment of Brigadier Mukwele, and when they started deliberating, it came to light that those charges were neither here nor there, but they formulated those charges. So again, you look at the issue of General Masemola. How did they get to a decision to charge him for contravention of Section 38 of the Public Finance Management Act, which is a contravention of a statutory, not a criminal offense? But on the other hand, again, they use the same law wrongly to put General Masemola in the same group as the others who were charged for fraud and corruption. As the Justice Madlanga put it eloquently yesterday, that from a person who's watching the proceedings, for instance, in court, would look at General Masemola and would make a conclusion that indeed he's also corrupt because he is put in the same basket with people who are corrupt. Justice Madlanga went as far as looking at the Criminal Procedure Act, Section 155 and 156, and there it was very clear that Advocate Johnson and her team, they did not apply the law the way they were supposed to. But there were other instances there as well, Sakina.
And of course, one has to ask the question as to why. Because even to a simple layperson like myself, looking at the charges that were preferred against Commissioner Masemola, and that is related to PFMA. So even for a layperson, it was a bit of a stretch to have Commissioner Masemola appear in the dock alongside people who are accused of fraud and corruption. So one has to ask, you know, whether there was more to this than what we are being told, because it just doesn't make sense.
I'm inclined to believe what Commissioner Khumalo said, that there is a hidden hand here. It is so possible that there is someone who has been using IDAC to achieve whatever they wanted to achieve. But I think as the proceedings continue, we may get to that as well. And moreover, the charges that were preferred against General Masemola were not even within the mandate of IDAC to either investigate or charge him for contravention of the PFMA, but they went ahead. Here we're talking about a team of advocates. That's why Justice Madlanga was so livid yesterday as well. A team of advocates, people who could understand the law, but none of them understood that what they were doing was wrong. So it shows that this was done intentionally. Because if you look at how they targeted General Khumalo, how they embarrassed him, how they targeted General Masemola, how they embarrassed him as well by standing in court alongside people who charged fraud and corruption, you can see that there was a witch hunt against these two specifically.
Dr. Mathebula, throughout her testimony, Advocate Johnson kept, attributing some of these errors and, decisions that were made to investigators under her watch. But to what degree can she distance herself as the head of an investigative unit from those operational issues?
There is no way, because as a head of a department or a directorate like IDAC, the buck stops with her. Whatever happens within her own department, she has to give answers. Shifting the blame to investigators or to the prosecutors, the Ramsamis, it doesn't help, because she was the head of IDAC, so she had to give answers. Ideally, one would think that whatever was happening within IDAC, they were supposed to consult her, because she's the one who has to approve. But there are instances as well where she looked like she was shocked when these things were revealed before her, like the issue of the members of the PKGT that went to arrest Mr. Adams in Cape Town. And thereafter, there was a summons which was signed by another prosecutor within IDAC, and she behaved or presented as if she didn't know about that. So there are many problems within IDAC, and those problems are of her own doing. The culture of impunity was created by her, so she has to take full responsibility and accountability for everything that happens within IDAC.
And then, of course, there were also allegations of selective investigations by IDAC. And listening to Andrea Johnson and how they chose to go after certain cases, like the Fadil Adams one, for example, certainly seems to lend credence to these allegations of selective investigations.
Indeed, the one of Adams, it's even shocking, because the initial concern that was raised by Adams through the office of the minister, the now suspended Minister Mkudu, was not about the issues of General Khumalo and others, but it was what he suspected, that was interception of the cases that he reported in Cape Town. He suspected that maybe the now retired General Patekile would intercept those cases and he may not see justice. But the matter, when it went to IDAC, then it became a different thing. IDAC solicited a statement from Adams that shows that they had their own intentions. These people, they will go all out to find something about someone whom they target, even if there's nothing written, but they will find something. That is where the selective investigation comes in. There are other names that came to the fore as well, the names of General Tele and others, but General Tele was never investigated for whatever allegations that were made against him. Why so? So it looks like they were targeting certain individuals.
So how does IDAC then recover its credibility when its now former head admitted that investigators may have been running unauthorized corruption probes without her direct oversight? And again, that seemed to happen quite often. There was so much that she kept saying that she wasn't aware of, or she trusted what the investigators had told her.
I don't believe that these people were doing things that she didn't know about. Probably she knew about some of the things, but now because she had to give answers, then she's trying to shift the goalpost. But the investigators that are part of IDAC, they've been there for many years. And the culture of doing whatever they want to do, whenever they want to, in their own way, has developed to a level where it cannot be reversed. So for one to restore the credibility and the integrity of the institution, heads must roll. There must be a serious overhaul of the entire IDAC. Some people, they must just leave IDAC because what they are doing or what they have been doing is not what they were employed to do. I think moving forward, they must look at the model of IDAC and think of remodeling IDAC so that they don't have so much powers. Some of the things must be done by NPA, not IDAC doing everything up until it goes to a magistrate or a judge. That's not how it's supposed to be. But I think the last report of the Madlanga Commission will make proper recommendation as far as IDAC is concerned.
And from a policing governance perspective, if you look at the fact that Johnson basically denies any deliberate wrongdoing, but she concedes that she made mistakes, how should we read that from a governance perspective?
It's very bad. I look at the manner in which actually most of the members who are within IDAC, including herself, do not understand their own mandate. That is why they'll end up, doing things which are not within their jurisdiction. As a head of a department, if one can ask, what is the mandate of a department? I don't have to go and look and page through just to read. I must know my mandate from the top of my head. But when she started paging the NPA Amendment Act, then I knew that we have a problem. So they must first understand their mandate. Understanding the mandate will make them to understand their roles much easier. But from where I'm sitting, they don't understand their mandate, they don't understand their role, and there are certain issues that were not within their jurisdiction, but they went ahead to investigate them. There are cases that were referred from IPID to them, even though they were not within their mandate. They went ahead to investigate them. Why did they do so? What was their interest in those cases? That remains to be seen. But from where I'm sitting, IDAC has serious problems. I heard others are calling for the disbandment of the entire IDAC. What we need an institution like IDAC in South Africa, but the way it is in its current form now, it doesn't work for South Africans.
And you listen to some of the evidence, and someone like Colonel Brian Padiachi, who of course appeared before the commission already, but then there's another name that keeps coming up, and a few others. Yesterday towards the tail end, we heard of Balochan, who seemingly had a live arrest warrant for his own arrest, and yet he was at the forefront of arresting others. And again, what did you make of Andrea Johnson's explanation of what had happened there, why no action was taken against him?
It looks like some of the individuals who are working at the IDAC were headhunted. Like, we look at the issue of Balochan. We had testimony, I think it was witness M or so, where we had shocking revelations as far as Balochan is concerned. Balochan was, the allegations that he was involved in extortion in the Eastern Cape, where he would extort money from Pakistan nationals and Bangladesh nationals. And there are 2 cases that were registered. And like you said, there's a warrant of arrest for the fellow. He was employed by IDAC, even if Advocate Johnson, she knew that there were cases against this individual. There's no way that she didn't even know about the warrant of arrest, but still he was employed by IDAC. The man has been doing investigation all over the country. And one thing that came to mind as well, how was the vetting process conducted? Because they should have picked it up right there, that here there are cases against this individual, and there's a pending warrant of arrest, which is still active even today. Even yesterday, could have been arrested, but he's still not arrested. Now he's talking about a letter with intention to suspend him. That's too little too late. The man must be arrested. He was not even supposed to be part of IDAC.
To that point, what I also find particularly shocking was when she was asked about that live warrant, and she essentially said that he investigated himself in that regard, because she said he went, Belochan, and he went and ran, his fingerprint test to see if there were any warrants against him, which I found totally shocking, because what was she doing then as the head of the institution?
That is very shocking. She was not even supposed to do any investigation. She was supposed to pick up the phone or go to the nearest office and check on the case administration system of the SAPS. The information is right there. There was no need for investigation. So what she's telling us is neither here nor there. She was just trying to cover up and try to maybe look like she did something. But apparently she did nothing. And I think she must also be held accountable for that, because that on its own, it's a serious indictment.
And then there's, of course, Perumal. We've heard a lot about Perumal and what he, as Dylan Perumal, has allegedly been involved in. One would imagine this is another person that should come before the commission to clear his name, if he will.
If you would recall, General Mkhwanazi said there's a man in IDAC by the name Perumal. Actually, he was talking about Padayachi. Let me not go there. But Perumal, in this testimony, it came to light that he may have doctored another Section 27 referral affidavit. And that's a serious offense. And that is the affidavit that came talking about things like the PKTT and other things which also had nothing to do with the IDAC. But I can't wait to see Perumal appearing before the commission and tell us exactly what transpired, because there's a lot that the men must tell us. Even the first Section 27 referral affidavit from Mr. Adams has so many errors. And again, the commissioner said it was flimsy. It never gave them something that they could work on as far as investigation is concerned. But they went ahead to investigate. So we need Perumal to recover, because we heard that he's a bit sick. He must recover and come to the commission and tell us exactly how did he get to the conclusion that there was fraud, there was corruption, there was irregular appointment of Brigadier Mukwele, and even not the appointment, the arrest of Brigadier Mukwele for a crime that they thought maybe should commit in future. What is that?
And then just finally, the NPA has now withdrawn all fraud and corruption charges against the crime intelligence head, Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo, and others provisionally. Does this validate Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's explosive claims that he made on July the 6th last year that this unit, IDAC, was being weaponized to protect illicit interests?
So far, I can say it does. However, when I look at the provisional withdrawal of the cases, it's concerning, because when a case is withdrawn provisionally, it may... We have seen that there's some evidence that they must still go gather, and once they have that, the case may be re-enrolled. And that's a worrying factor. Now you ask yourself, what did Brigadier Mukwele did that they must still investigate? So it's a worrying factor. I'm not happy about that decision, but it has been made.
And we keep watching. Thanks so much, as always, Dr Mxolisi Mathebula, for your analysis, independent policing and crime analyst, helping us unpack Advocate Andrea Johnson's testimony at the Madlanga Commission. That's also our question of the day, where you can let us know your thoughts, your views on this matter at Morning Live SABC.